All right, I'm gonna look at the Ashens real quick before we head off. I actually have not seen any of the leaks. I was not joking. I haven't read any of these. I've seen that people have posted them, but I haven't watched any of it. This one they have already spoiled it during some post, right? This one we already knew about. This is the one where I said it's the fusion that requires Vados plus Pyros. So the effect actually isn't that great, but if you confuse with your opponent's card somehow, then it would make sense. Okay, this is new. During the main phase, you can fusion summon a Dude, I literally said, I hope they don't give him a fusion trap card. You can fusion summon a Pyro Fusion from your extra deck using monster from either field. There we go. You can fuse with your opponent's cards, but why is it on a trap card? Including Vados, and if you do, it gains 500 attack for each material used. You can banish this card and one Dark Pyro from your grave. All monsters your opponent controls currently become Pyro. So this card would be interesting if Vados could activate it. But Vados sets it, right? Vados doesn't activate it. So this is just not ideal. It's just not great, is it? I see the idea, right? You give your opponent Vados if they activate a field spell. You set the trap card, and then because your opponent has Vados and you have the trap card, you can now fuse with the Vados and two of their monsters. If you can turn them into Pyro, you can fuse away their board and all that kind of stuff, and then Vados goes to the graveyard and triggers and blows up all the other stuff. I see it. I wasn't hoping for fusion traps, let's say it like that, especially because you can't place it face up with Vados. You have to set it. Theoretically, if you resolve Vados on your opponent's first turn and you set the trap card and they don't have a way to deal with the trap card, that is a full board clear, right? Because Vados is going to destroy all monsters and the Vados fusion is going to destroy all spell and traps. Sure. I get what they're trying to let us do, but it's like, I think it's a little bit too volatile. Like, there's too many things that interact with this. There's too many things your opponent can do to stop that. Okay, main deck monsters. These are very important. If Obsidian is in the field zone, you can special summon this card. They all have this. You can only special summon Shaman once per turn this way. You can target 3 of your Pyros that are banished in the grave, shuffle them into the deck. Then if you shuffled an Ashen monster, you can add an Obsidian from your deck to your hand. You can only use this effect once per turn. Level 4 Extender is not terrible. This card has no starter capabilities because it is purely recycling. But the fact that it recycles and goes +1 is okay, I guess. This seems like a solid one-off for, like, recursion. Get your resources back into the deck. Maybe you play 2 so that you can go infinite if that ever matters, because one Shaman can shuffle back another Shaman, so you never run out of Ashen cards. Not terrible. Notably, it cannot recycle Obsidian, right? Because it says Pyro monsters, it doesn't say Ashen cards, so you cannot recycle the field spell. But okay, not terrible, nothing crazy, not exactly what they needed, but it does help. If Obsidian is in the field zone, well, Obsidian recycles itself. Okay, then never mind, I forgot that part. If Obsidian is in the field zone, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can only special summon Spearhead. I thought it was called Superhead. Spearhead of the Ashen City once per turn this way. If your opponent controls a monster with 2800 or more attack, you contribute this card. Then target one card your opponent controls. Return it to the hand. That's disappointing. Oh, the Spearhead is disappointing. So you can give them Vados and then bounce it back to the hand, which then goes back to your own hand. Nah, this is the most disappointing one so far. Like, you want to make this deck a fusion archetype, sure. You want to give this deck a card that is mainly only being used as recycling, sure. This is just terrible. Tribute itself to bounce a card. Not even a quick effect. You can bounce other things, but nah, this is not great. The
Obsidian
only
for me.
reason why this card might be good is because you have another level 4 body that you can special summon if you have Obsidian. But this is just not it. This card is not good. This is literally like a level 4 vanilla almost with the special summon clause. But why are you expecting so much from this archetype? It's because I want it to be good. Because Vados is a super cool card, and a lot of the concept of this deck I think is really cool. The artwork of this deck is really cool. I had high hopes for this, I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little biased. I wanted these to be good, and that's why I'm disappointed. Send a Dark Pyro from your deck to the graveyard, then you can add a level 5 or higher Pyro monster from your graveyard to your hand. For the rest of this turn, after this card resolves, you cannot special summon from the extra deck except Pyros. You can banish this card from your grave, fusion summon a Pyro from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field. Okay, this card is good. This is a good card. This is a good card because this is basically a Rhoda that plays around Droll, and you can also, you don't have to add the same one back that you foolish. So if there's a certain copy of a card, like let's say you only play one Shaman and your Shaman is in the graveyard. Oh no, you can't add it back because it's level 5 or higher for some reason. But okay, whatever, man. You basically can only search the level 5 or higher ones with this, but okay. It's a slightly worse Rhoda, but it plays around Droll, and it has a fusion effect in the graveyard, which is a nice bonus. This is a good card. We'll take it. It's not perfect, but this one we'll take. Rekindling the Ascend. Quick play spell card. Place one of your Ascend cards that is banished or in your graveyard on the bottom of your main deck, except Rekindling. Then target an effect monster your opponent controls. Negate its effects until the end of this turn. You can only activate one Rekindling per turn. Okay, another pack filler. This card is garbage. This card is literally a Forbidden Chalice that requires you to have an Ascend card in the graveyard or banished. Like... okay. Oh, there's a second fusion. Embers of the Ascend. Any 2 Pyros. If this card is fusion summoned, you can target a field spell in your grave, add it to your hand. At the start of the battle, damage step, if this card battles an opponent's Pyro, you can destroy that monster. And if it is your turn, this can make its second attack in a row. You can only use each effect once per turn. Okay. I mean... it's a super poly target, but you can already super poly 2 Pyro monsters most of the time. Because most of the time Pyros are fire monsters, so you can super poly 2 Pyros into Garura anyways. This is probably the one because the Rota spell only lets you fusion summon with your own cards, right? You wouldn't really want to summon the big fusion with it because it needs 3 cards. This one only needs 2, so it's more likely you're going to fuse into this with the spell card. But it also, notably, is Vados... Vados is also a Pyro, right? I think Vados is also a Pyro. So this means that if your opponent... like, if you give your opponent Vados, and then you want to fuse with it, but your opponent doesn't have multiple monsters, you can fuse with Vados +1 into the new fusion, which is interesting, I suppose. It's not terrible. It's just that the fact that they have given this deck out of the second wave, we were expecting 7 new cards. And out of these 7 cards, 4 of them are fusion related. That's kind of disappointing because I felt like this deck needed more main deck oomph, right? This deck needed more main deck tools. And out of the 4 cards that are fusion related, 1 of them is a good main deck card. And out of all, and then the biggest problem is we have 7 new cards. 4 of them are fusion related. 1 of those is actually a good main deck card, which is the spell card. The other 3, terrible, maybe a 1-of. So for the main deck for Ascend, you're literally getting barely anything. You're getting 1 Shaman and this one, which is arguably, I mean, I'll admit it, this is a good card, but everything else for the main deck, you're not really getting anything. You know what the issue is right now? I don't actually hate most of these new cards. Like, I don't hate the fusion mechanic for this deck. I think this whole idea of giving your opponent Vados and then interacting with it by fusing it away or doing other things with it, and that blows up the board and all that, I can get behind that. I think that's cool. I actually still like the way this deck is meant to be played. The one thing I don't like is that I think we are simply too thin on the main deck side, right? Like, I think we just don't have enough good main deck cards for this deck yet. I think we needed a little bit more than this. So I don't actually think, like, unlike Tistina, where I just looked at the cards and I'm like, these all kind of suck, right? Or like Goatee, where a lot of it was just really, really disappointing. A lot of these, like, out of the 14 Ashen cards we've gotten, I don't actually think that many of them are bad. Like, literally, I don't know out of the first wave, but out of this wave, I'm only really disappointed in Rekindling and in Spearhead, right? The other cards I all think are valid. Even the Trap card, to an extent, can be a fine gimmick to be played around. Because, I mean, in a way, that's the same thing they did with the Yubel Trap, and that's also seeing play and is fine. And, like, Yubel is a rogue deck, but it's an okay gimmick for a deck to have. I don't have a problem with this. My issue is just because we are limited to 2 waves of support for TCG only archetypes of 7 cards each, giving them funny gimmicks like a way to fuse with your opponent's cards and 2 fusion monsters, like, that just means you don't have enough room in 14 cards to make enough good cards. Especially if you're gonna use room on something like this. Or Spearhead, right? Which ends up with, in this weird situation where I don't actually hate these Ashen cards. I just don't think they have quite enough. They are not what I was hoping for, because there's like, we don't have enough cards. Like, we simply don't have, it doesn't have what it takes, I don't think, right? Because we just don't have enough card quality for the main deck yet. So all that's left is we have to wait for the OCG support, I suppose, right? I think we have to wait for the OCG support to save this archetype, which it could. Like I said, some of these cards are really cool, but it just doesn't have enough. But okay, anyways, I'm not sure how I feel about all of this. I'm kind of torn. On the one hand, I'm disappointed because I don't think it's quite good enough to make it a good deck yet. Some of it is still really cool, so yeah, I don't hate it, but I'm still a little bit disappointed by the overall situation. Anyways, this was a lot longer of a stream than usual. I hope you enjoyed the stream. Let me see where I can send you guys to. Neo GPT and Forgot to Laugh, thank you for the last minute primes. I appreciate you a lot. Thank you for all the support. I will send you guys somewhere. I'll send you guys over to MBT. I hope you enjoyed the stream. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I hope to see you guys tomorrow, where we continue some TCG deck building and maybe check out the new Master Duel event. And yeah.